India's maritime arrangement in the Bay of Bengal region are changing as India recently signed the BIMSTEC Maritime Transport Agreement with other BIMSTEC nations. But this needs to be viewed under the light of growing tensions between India and Bangladesh. Hello and welcome to Drishti IAS. My name is Saloni Nankulier, and today we will talk about India's aspirations of becoming a regional maritime leader and what role can this agreement play in it. So recently, in the last BIMSTEC summit that was held in April 2025 in Thailand, India, along with other BIMSTEC nations, signed the BIMSTEC Maritime Transport Cooperation Agreement to boost trade and connectivity in the Bay of Bengal region. Now, Bay of Bengal is a very critical region in maritime trade because it connects us with the other Southeast Asian nations and also to some major shipping routes like the Strait of Malacca. So India wants to grow its presence there and reach regional connectivity and cooperation, and that is the reason that this agreement was signed to boost trade and connectivity in the Bay of Bengal region. Now, this news needs to be viewed with another incident that happened very close to this agreement, which was India's withdrawal of key transshipment facility for Bangladesh, which created diplomatic tensions, raising concerns about the politicization of trade. So earlier, Bangladesh could use India's ports, India's airports, and India's land customs stations to reach to third nations like Nepal and Bhutan or Myanmar. So this was something that was highly beneficial for the Bangladeshi exporters. But then some things happened, either political or India stated congestion reasons, but there are speculations that it was politically motivated. We will discuss that. But now Bangladesh could not access India's ports, airports, and these land custom stations, and this left the Bangladeshi exporters in a very bad situation. So that is something that happened in early April. This also happened in April. Now both the events happened very close to each other, and because the tensions between India and Bangladesh were growing, the signing of this agreement comes as a fresh start, as a renewed start, and it is seen as a good news. This agreement aims to streamline customs and shipping procedures across BIMSTEC countries, and it aims to enhance the multimodal transport cooperation. So what is multimodal transport? It is using different modes of transport like rail, road, sea, other different modes of transport in one connection. For example, your Kaladan project is a multimodal transport project where we are using different forms of connections, different transports as our means of connectivity. Then it also aims to reduce logistical costs and regulatory frictions and improve access for landlocked countries like Bhutan and Nepal. So there are some countries in BIMSTEC that are landlocked. There are 7 countries in total in BIMSTEC. And an abbreviation to remember it is MBBS-NIT, which is Myanmar, Bhutan, Bangladesh, Sri Lanka, Nepal, India, Thailand. So in this Bhutan and Nepal, these are landlocked countries, and these countries are going to benefit by this agreement because this multimodal connection is going to connect them to the sea. And it is a part of India's effort to strengthen regional trade infrastructure, especially through its Sagarmala program. So India is very strong on achieving its regional maritime security goal, and that is the reason that India came up with Sagarmala program, which was initiated in 2015, and it focuses on port-led development. So India has a coastline of 7,500 kilometers, and this project focuses on enhancing or developing our ports, because a lot of our trade happens, like maritime trade, it happens to these ports, and especially the ports in the Bay of Bengal region like Vishakhapatnam, Paradeep, Kolkata. These ports handle high volumes of trade. So this Sagarmala project also takes care of our ports development, and this agreement, signing of this agreement, is also in line with our vision of creating these ports and developing these ports. But our tensions with Bangladesh are growing. So if you recall, we just talked about India withdrawing the facility for Bangladesh, that Bangladesh can no longer access our ports, airports, and land customs stations. So India stated a reason that these ports were becoming very congested. This is the reason that India stated, but experts believe that this could be politically motivated. Why? Because if you recall, in late March, Mohammed Yunus, he met with Chinese president and he made some controversial remarks. For example, he said that India's northeastern states are landlocked and they have no access to the ocean. So China must consider investing in Bangladesh, as Bangladesh is the sole guardian of the ocean. So these were some controversial remarks that Muhammad Yunus made. And even after this, there were some maps of Greater Bangladesh that were surfacing online. And in that map, parts of Assam were shown as Bangladesh's territory. So this was also a direct attack on India's sovereignty. So things like these were happening, and then the BIMSTEC summit came. So all these things coupled together, they started creating tensions between India and Bangladesh's diplomatic relations. And experts suggest that there could be a political agenda, a political motivation behind the withdrawal of this transshipment facility. So India claimed port congestion as a reason, but we are saying that there could be other reasons also. And then India also went ahead and had restrictions, put import restrictions on certain Bangladeshi goods through its land ports in the northeast. So we withdrew our facility, transshipment facility from Bangladesh, and we also put some import restrictions on Bangladeshi goods. So these are some things that happened, and as a result, Bangladesh's garment industry suffered a lot because Bangladesh was exporting a lot of things, a lot of products through our transshipment facilities, and especially garment. Bangladesh produces a lot of garment and exports a lot of garment. So 85% of its export earnings were badly hit because exporters now they had to follow an alternative route. If you cannot access the Indian ports, you'll have to follow alternative routes like going through Sri Lanka or Myanmar. So that is going to take a lot, of time also, and a lot of money also, a lot of resources also. So they faced higher costs and delays because they were using Sri Lanka and Southeast Asian routes to reach to their destinations. This undermines regional trust and sends a message that India's trade policies may be politically motivated. Now, India wants to establish itself as a regional leader, and a leader's policies or a leader's moves cannot be politically motivated. So, doing these things, while India did not directly state that there was a political agenda, and there may or may not be, but doing these things can undermine the trust we have with our partner countries. And that is why we needed this agreement, because if this agreement will not come into picture, there are possibilities that our neighbor countries are going to hedge with China or some other countries, because China anyway with its Belt and Road Initiative is wanting to enter as many markets as it can, and it also has a very aggressive policy towards the Indian Ocean region. So it wants to increase its presence in the Indian Ocean region like anything. So if we do not have these agreements, these cooperation agreements in place, and if we do not have some regional cooperation with our partner, with our neighbor states, there is a possibility that our neighbor states are going to be more inclined towards China or towards other countries, which is not a good thing for India. And maritime trade, which was once seen as neutral, is now becoming strategic and transactional. So this is not something that we desire. So the maritime trade, it needs to be neutral. And India wants to establish its credibility as a regional leader. How can it do that? It can do that by building strong port infrastructure, which we are already doing through our Sagarmala project and the agreements that we keep signing. And we also need to make some policy reforms that support trade, support maritime trade. We have to make some policy reforms for customs reforms, import-export reforms that support our trade. Credibility versus capacity. So India needs to establish its credibility that our decisions are not politically motivated, they are neutral in nature, they keep the regional cooperation of all our partner states in mind. And it also needs to establish its capacity in the terms of physical capacity like resources, ports, port enhancement, development, capacity holding. So credibility also needs to be established, and capacity also needs to be established if India wants to become a regional leader. Neutrality of the state needs to be established, and leadership comes through stability. So India needs to establish itself as a stable leader, someone whose decisions are stable, are neutral in nature. So the way forward for India is that because India aims to be a regional integrator, it needs to maintain a balance between strategic interest and regional trust. And it needs to create a rule-based neutral trade framework which is insulated from geopolitics, because the dynamics are always going to change. We live in an environment where the dynamics with our partner countries, with our neighbor countries are always going to change. But the decisions in trade or decisions in maritime trade, in oceanic trade, should not really be affected by the geopolitics. And if we are able to achieve that, only then India will be able to establish itself as a regional leader, as a security provider in the maritime space. So that was all for today's video. We discussed what are the relations, the growing tensions between India and Bangladesh, and how this agreement can really help us overcome those challenges. So now that you understand all this, let us quickly see if you can answer this question. Consider the following statements about the BIMSTEC Maritime Transport Cooperation Agreement signed in 2025. It aims to harmonize customs procedures and promote multimodal transport among BIMSTEC member states. 2. The agreement is legally binding as was signed by all BIMSTEC countries, including Pakistan. 3. It is intended to reduce regulatory friction and port costs in the Bay of Bengal region. And 4. The agreement was signed under India's Sagarmala Initiative. Which of the statements is or are correct? A. 1 and 2 only. B. 2 and 3 only. C. 1 and 3 only. D. 1 only. Please provide your answers in the comment section, and until we meet the next time, please keep studying and keep revising.
For more informative content, like, share and subscribe, and do not forget to press the bell icon to get the notifications.